The paintwork of the body is not famous for its resistance to external influences, which is why it quickly acquires chips and scratches. Most often, damage to the paintwork is present on the edges of the roof and hood at the points of contact of the body with bumpers and in doorways. Wipe it with seals. The paint does not adhere well to the silver door seals and bumpers. On the protruding side walls in front of the rear arches there may be traces of sandblasting. It is recommended to protect problem areas with an anti-gravel film and install larger mudguards. You should also pay attention to the roof, because the insufficient rigidity of the body in this area of U200B, U200B the gutters, above the windshield, at the joints of the rear of the roof and side walls, cracks may be present on the paintwork. The Renault Duster body is galvanized, which makes it resistant to corrosion for a long time, but well, there are problem areas here. Most often, rust spots can be found under rubber seals and on the edges of doors. Over the years, rust comes out from under the plastic lining of the fifth door, above the license plate. The wheel arches require attention, and if there are no mudguards, then the thresholds in the area behind the front wheels. When inspecting a car from below, special attention should be paid to the attachment points of the subframe, the seams of the bottom and the engine compartment. It is also necessary to check the floors in the cabin. The presence of moisture increases the chances of running into an instance with heating, corrosion and electrical problems. Among the body equipment, the unreliability of decorative panels should be highlighted, quick fastening of the front fairings and the roof rails. They can come off at speed. The front optics are covered with soft plastic, which is easily scratched and quickly becomes cloudy. The trouble is aggravated by the tendency of the headlights to fog up. There are problems with the tightness of the rear number plate light and the connectors of the parking sensors in the bumper. Contacts quickly oxidize. A lot of problems can cause leakage of the pump seal and washer nozzles. In cars with a gasoline engine, moisture that has appeared can cause a breakdown in the ignition system, a malfunction of which reduced the life of the converter. Another disadvantage is the rapid contamination of the engine compartment. The problem is solved by installing a seal from Gazelle or Lada. Some owners of cars equipped with regular alloy wheels note a quick imbalance of the wheels. This trouble is caused by the accumulation of dirt in the groove in the inner side of the discs. Periodic cleaning is required. The K4M stock motor is considered the most successful in the line. Among the main ailments, one can single out a tendency to oil leak and coolant. Oil leaks must quickly appear on the valve cover, front crankshaft oil seal and oil separator. Antifreeze tends to slip through cracks in the thermostat housing. A modest resource by modern standards has a crankshaft damper pulley and ignition coils. Often, owners are also faced with such a nuisance as floating revolutions of the XX. There may be several reasons: contamination of the throttle or injectors, as well as the presence of cracks in the intake manifold. The gas distribution mechanism is driven by a belt which must be changed every 60,000 kilometers. The engine resource is about 400,000 kilometers. The H4M engine, aka HR16DE, which replaced it in 2015, is endowed with a timing chain drive. The chain is designed for the entire service life of the internal combustion engine. However, it is not uncommon for it to stretch on a run of 140–160,000 kilometers. The cost of a new timing kit is low, but due to the fact that the phase shifter often has to be changed along with the chain, repairs are twice as expensive. There are no hydraulic compensators here, therefore, with an increase in the noise of the engine, it will be necessary to adjust the thermal clearances of the valves. Work is recommended to be carried out every 60,000 kilometers. Of the more significant shortcomings, one should highlight in the tendency of the engine to mass leisure, which manifests itself closer to 200,000 kilometers. At an early stage, it is possible to eliminate the disease by selecting a more viscous oil. In advanced cases, capital will be required. Also among the problematic ones are the ever-whistling alternator belt, the delicate relay of the ignition unit, and the weak gasket of the exhaust pipe of the muffler. It burns out quickly. The resource of the piston group is about 300,000 km. The 2-liter F4R engine has a timing belt drive with a prescribed service interval of 80,000 km. It is not worth delaying the work, because when the belt breaks, in 99% of cases the valve pistons bend. As for the vulnerabilities of the engine, here, first of all, it is necessary to know the unreliability of the phase regulator couplings, which on average serve about 80,000 km. They start to creak, and their replacement is expensive, about $150. Checking the phase regulator is carried out only on a hot one. It is not necessary to delay the repair, since the wear products of the phase shifters quickly contaminated the control valve and the engine lubrication system. Closer to 150,000 kilometers, a progressive musculature appears, up to 500 grams per 1,000 kilometers. This ailment, as a rule, is caused by the unsatisfactory condition of the valve stem seals, the occurrence of wear of the piston rings. Often, owners complain about the unstable operation of the engine and the difficulty with a cold start. Both problems are signs of a malfunction of the ignition system. Most often coils fail and throttle contamination. Cleaning is required. The K9 Kane diesel engine is generally not bad, and before it appeared in the Renault, Duster managed to get rid of his main ailment, turning the connection rod bearings. Most of the ailments of this internal combustion engine are typical for solar units. So, for example, if you feed the motor with bad fuel, Delphi piezoelectric injectors can go haywire after 10,000 kilometers. It is worth noting that long-term work with faulty nozzles often ends with burnout of the pistons. Also, low-quality diesel fuel negatively affects the life of the high-pressure fuel pump, the USR valve and the particulate filter. It is used after restyling in 2015. Another potentially vulnerable point is the oil filter valve and the oil pump pressure-reducing valve spring. Failure leads to a drop in pressure in the system. The turbocharger, depending on the quality of service, serves 150 to 150,000 kilometers. Engine resource 300–400,000 kilometers. Renault Duster is equipped with the following gearboxes: 5 and 6 speed mechanics JR5 TL8 and the 4 bevel DP0/AL4 automatic, after restyling for all-wheel drive DP8, front-wheel drive DP2. No significant flaws were noticed behind the mechanical boxes. The only weak point here is the clutch. The lining of the driven disc is often give up on a run of 100–130,000 kilometers. In machines that offer Conquer off-road, leaf and damper springs can withstand less than 100,000 km. The clutch slave cylinder is also very not successful. It may be asked for replacement after 50,000 km. Since the cylinder is combined with the release bearing, it is not cheap. The original is $110 USD. In addition, the part has a rather fragile plastic pipe for the hydraulic line, on which the fitting is located. It is easy to damage when pumping the system. Another weak point is the unreliability of the axle shaft seals. They leak, and the freezing of the gear shift cables. With the rare change of lubricant by 200,000 km, the shaft bearing begin to booze. Cars with manual transmissions of the first years of production had many cases of factory underfilling of oil, which negatively affect the resource of gearbox parts. An automatic transmission is no less reliable. If you do not serve on maintenance and change the oil at least once every 68,000 km, the control hydraulics will last about 150,000 km, and the mechanical part will last more than 250,000 km. The main disadvantage of automatic transmission is the use of the weak cooling system, as a result of which the box quickly overheats under load. When overheated, as a rule, all rubber-coated and Teflon parts melt. In some cases, it came to the curvature of the valve body. Work without preheating also negatively affects the gearbox resource. Valve wear is accelerated. Another disadvantage is the short life of the bushings, which can begin to leak oil after 80,000 km, as a result of which the ECU switches the oil pump to maximum performance. With an aggressive driving style, the torque converter and the electronic transmission control unit fail prematurely. Of the less common ailments, there is a lubricant leak and a break in the brake band. All-wheel drive is connected to the Renault Duster using an electromagnetic multiplate clutch. The main disadvantage of all-wheel drive versions is the unreliability of the transfer case drive oil seals. The reason is a crooked box with bearings. Failures in the operation of the system control electronics are also considered a common phenomenon. A flashing of the control unit is required. The wiring harnesses and rear gear sensor have insufficient protection, which is why they are often damaged by snags when riding off-road. Closer to 100,000 km, crosses may need to be replaced, the replacement of which involves the purchase of a new universal joint, non-separable. The cost of the original is about 570 USD. However, the craftsmen have already learned how to restore the part, using crosses from the steering cardan of trucks and an outboard bearing from the Volga. The clutch, as a rule, needs to be repaired after 200,000 km. On the front axle of the Renault Duster, an independent McPherson-type suspension is used. The design of the rear axle depends on the type of drive. For machines with a single drive, a semi-independent beam. For all-wheel drive versions, a multi-link. In general, the chassis is quite strong and inexpensive to maintain. The weak link in the suspension is the consumables of the front stabilizer, which will have to be updated every 30–70,000 km. Ball joints need to be replaced every 90–110,000 km. In the original, they are assembled with a lever. The resource of shock absorbers and wheel bearings largely depends on the degree of load, 80–130,000 km. Thrust bearings and silent blocks nurse up to 150,000 kilometers. The details of the multi-link can withstand 150,000 kilometers without replacement, and the silent blocks of the beam can last more than 200,000 kilometers. The rail, as a rule, does not make itself felt until 200,000 kilometers, plus it is inexpensive to repair. But the power steering pump can present unpleasant surprises in the form of a current oil seal. It is also necessary to monitor the condition of the power steering high-pressure line. It frays at the point of attachments to the top frame, after which expensive repairs are required, $200 to $150 USD. Another weak point is the steering tips, which rarely withstand more than 70,000 kilometers. The reliability of the braking system does not raise significant questions. The only thing that is required from the owners is periodic maintenance of the calipers and monitoring the condition of the handbrake cable sheath in the area of the mounting brackets. The Renault Duster interior is made of budget materials and does not have good acoustic comfort, especially in winter, plastic creaks. Despite the cheapness of the finish, it tolerates all the hardships of operation well. So, for example, the steering wheel is overriding closer to 140–160,000 kilometers. The seat upholstery retains its marketable appearance for about the same amount. Of the weak points, one can single out the plastic sidewall of the front seats fall off and not very high-quality seals. In the cold season, condensation forms on the roof, which as a result accumulates in the interior ceiling lamp. Another problematic place is the drainage snail of the climate system unit. It shifts over time and moisture begins to drain under the front passenger's feet, relevant for cars manufactured before 2013. As for the reliability of electronics, there is nothing special to break. Of the minor troubles, there are malfunctions in the operation of the fuel gauge, gives incorrect data, onboard computer, freezes, and steering column switches. For pre-styling Renault Duster, it would be useful to check the operability of the sound signal, since if it malfunctions, you will have to change the steering column lever, about 100 cu. For cars with a diesel engine, the interior electric heater can go on strike. To solve the problem, flashing the ECU is required. If you are the owner of this car model, please describe the problems that you had to face during the operation of the car. Perhaps it is your review that will help readers of our site when choosing a car.